Do driven, highly achieving people ever have days when they just don't have any motivation? I think yes. I think they tell us they experience the same feelings in motivational deserts as the rest of us. The only difference is in how they reflexively act when they have no motivation. It's easier to reactively act like your more ideal self when you have a pre-established protocol in place for days when you have no motivation, and all you have to do is unthinkingly obey it. You're listening to the Health Coach Collective podcast, episode 259, Protocol for Days When You Have No Motivation. Welcome to the Health Coach Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that the years right around the time of menopause are the most critical time to lay the foundation for health and strength in her 70s, 80s, and beyond. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the podcast. I hope you're having a great day so far, and I am happy that you're here today. How are you feeling about mammograms? Do your own research and decide what's best for you. I think mammograms have their place, but that place is not as a screening tool for the general population of women who have no reason to be concerned about their breast health. There are better screening options now. Today, we're going to talk about your protocol for days when you have no motivation. It happens, right? Even to the most high-achieving people in the world. So how do wildly successful people continue to drive their lives forward if they don't feel mega super motivated every minute of every day? Same as everyone else. My proposal to you today is that you create a personal protocol to implement on the days that you have no motivation. In 1959, when Dwight Eisenhower was the US president and everyone was terrified of a nuclear attack on the US by the Soviets, and Fidel Castro rose to power in Cuba and everyone seemed to be turning communist, the US Joint Chiefs of Staff created a system called DEFCON. I'm sure you've heard of it and probably know more about it than I do. I've just heard it talked about on movies and TV. I even had to Google it to see whether it was DEFCON or DEFCON. And it's DEFCON, which stands for Defense Readiness Condition, although there's nothing that indicates the readiness part of that phrase, like in the DEFCON, just defense condition, but whatever. DEFCON is an operational system that can be quickly and easily communicated to all branches of the government, especially the military, to help them know exactly what to do. DEFCON 5 is peacetime, and DEFCON 1 means imminent nuclear attack. The highest the US has ever gotten is DEFCON 2 during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. DEFCON is a quick and easy way to communicate the readiness level and security measures required of each branch of the military. DEFCON 1 is a readiness state of cocked pistol. DEFCON 2 is a readiness state of fast pace. DEFCON 3 is a readiness state of roundhouse, which is a higher than typical alert level, but not super crazy. DEFCON 4 is double take, and DEFCON 5 is fade out. There are some other threat-tiered programs like FPCON, used just by the Army, and U.S. travel advisories, which are blue, yellow, orange, and red, helping you decide whether traveling to a certain foreign country is safe. Just for fun, I looked up which countries are currently on the red or tier 4 list, thinking there'd be like 3 or 4, including Iran, but there are actually 21. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but are you curious? Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Belarus, Burkina Faso, Burma, Central African Republic, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Mali, North Korea, Russia, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Yemen. Yikes. Okay, so when there's a status change in a system like DEFCON, which is not something that's made public, each branch of the military has a certain protocol that they follow. They'll do things like start getting troops ready for deployment, send out more intelligence surveillance, secretly move equipment to strategic locations, be more watchful, stockpile more ammunition, and who knows what else. Build bomb shelters, I guess. What if you had a system that would give you a quick and easy protocol of how to act based on your motivation threat level, so to speak? Lots of motivation would be blue, no motivation to act in your own best interest would be red or DEFCON 1. I think it could be potentially useful. What do you think? What do you typically do on days that you have no motivation? You're exhausted, feeling kind of hopeless, defeated, or like, what's the point? Maybe you blow off your workout, eat at Arby's, spend money on frivolous things, scroll for hours, drink soda, camp out on the couch, wear frumpy clothes, ignore your to-do list, don't get out of your chair for hours at a time, skip your prayers or meditation, or eat a whole rotisserie chicken by yourself in one sitting. While moments of low to no motivation are inevitable, acting in ways that undo all of the hard work you've done the rest of the time is optional. Think about a specific time in the recent past when you've gone backward on one of your health goals. What exactly were you thinking when you chose not to do your desired behavior? What good excuses did you sell yourself? No matter how much we hate the idea of having to sell things to other people, we're all pretty amazing at convincing ourselves of some smarmy things. Was there a certain phrase or idea you convinced yourself of? That you deserved something like a break, or that something's just too hard, or that you're not strong enough, or you'll do it tomorrow, that you need to prioritize recovery right now, you'll do hard things later when life's not so crazy. And how did you feel inside your body? Heavy, dark, lethargic, tight, trapped? Any other signals that your healthy behavior motivation levels were critically low? If you've thought of some patterns or common behaviors and thoughts that precede veering off course, maybe that could be your signal to declare DEFCON 1. If you're really self-aware, maybe you could also have a DEFCON 2 and 3. Then, just like the real DEFCON 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, you can have a standard protocol to implement that you don't have to invent or reinvent on the spot when the nuclear threat level is high and it's hard to think objectively and with a broad perspective. If you think having a ready-made protocol would help you not slip back as far on the days that you have no motivation, I'd invite you to create one. Sit down and write it out if you're an overachiever, which I know you are. But I bet you can even come up with a pretty good one in your head right now as you finish this episode and walk your dog or drive home for work or clean out your fridge or whatever you're doing. Something is better than nothing, and you can refine it and make it more explicit later. There's a famous Zig Ziglar quote that says, "People often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily." I like that one because it's not too hard to get inspired and excited and believe that that enthusiasm or motivation will or should last for the rest of our life. That there's something wrong with us if we revert back to preferring to stay home and reread Wuthering Heights rather than do something that we haven't gotten good at yet, like prepping 5 healthy lunches to bring to work, or lifting weights in the barbell area at the gym, or attempting to make new friends. Just like having to bathe every day isn't a sign that something's wrong with you, it's just part of being a human who wants to smell inoffensive. Having to re-hype yourself up or re-inspire yourself every day is part of being a human who wants to drive her life forward. So my first suggestion for your no motivation protocol is to have a pre-selected pep talk or sermon or speech or video that will be the first step in your DEFCON 1 protocol. As soon as you identify that there's a real and present danger to your homeland motivational security, listen to, read, watch, or otherwise soak your consciousness in the pep talk that you've already picked out and know exactly where to find. Consuming something motivational every day is as good of an idea as bathing every day. But on the days where you're just not feeling it like at all, you need something special that you know exactly where to find. Think of it as your mental luxury bubble bath or your hazmat decontamination shower, whichever is more motivating to you. What are you going to pick to help inspire you on your worst days? Do you already have something in mind? Where are you going to save it so it's super accessible? I'll put a link in the show notes to my favorite motivational video, which is 22 seconds long. I would classify it as more of a DEFCON 2 or 3 level of motivation, but I seriously watch it all the time, and I show it to my kids when they know they should be doing something important but don't want to. And their question is always, but what is it? I have no idea, but I think it's genius, and these people should immediately be given Tony Awards. I also have an app that I like that has lots of things to listen to that are meditation adjacent. And one section is called Pep Talks, and I find it useful. The app is called Activations. Again, more of a DEFCON 2 or 3 situation, so make sure you have a go-to DEFCON 1 motivator that's really important to you and that's ready at your fingertips for the next time you have no motivation. Once you have an inspirational pep talk or literary passage ready to extract your emotions from the dumpster, another useful way to prevent backpedaling too far on uninspiring days is to have a preset, clearly defined baseline or floor. We've talked about floors and ceilings before. When you have a predetermined floor, you have a non-negotiable lower limit to what you'll do, regardless of how you feel. It needs to be somewhat specific to the area you have no motivation in, like spending 5 minutes outside every morning within 30 minutes of waking up, no matter what, to assist your circadian biology. Or eating 4 servings of protein every day, no matter what, to assist your muscle synthesis. Or drinking a certain amount of water, or walking a certain amount of steps. You get the idea. What is your nourishment floor, or movement floor, or sleep prioritization floor, or spiritual or social health floor? Now, here's the secret to a floor that actually helps you drive your life forward. It's so tempting to pick a really great floor. We're remodeling our master bathroom and bedroom right now, and I picked out the most gorgeous honed marble tiles and had them laid in a herringbone pattern. It is an absolutely beautiful floor. It's tempting to pick out a similarly exquisite behavioral floor, a minimum baseline that is top tier, 100 push-ups every single day, 45 minutes a day of daily meditation, a minimum of 6 servings of vegetables every day, a floor that will make your life better. Don't do it. Don't make your life better. Just kidding. But really, don't pick an impressive floor. The key to having your floor eventually raise your roof, so to speak, is to pick something you know you can do on your very worst day, a day when you have 0 motivation. There's a quote I love from Stephen Guise that says, "Be the person with embarrassing goals and impressive results instead of one of the many people with impressive goals and embarrassing results." I love it, and I think it fits so well with your protocol for the days when you have no motivation. When you have a minimum baseline, what we're calling a floor, that's truly and honestly doable on your worst day, you can be 100% consistent doing things that advance your life forward. It's way more effective to be 100% consistent doing something embarrassingly small than to be 10% consistent doing something impressively large. What will you make your minimum baseline in the area you're working on? Make sure it's something you can do on your very worst day. If you pick it and go forward with your life and find that you just can't get yourself to do it, it's too hard. You need to make it easier. Don't be disappointed. Doing your minimum baseline is more about consistency than it is about making huge leaps forward. Because the biggest leap forward you can make is becoming someone who's reliably consistent, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. That might start with drinking an extra 8 ounces of water every day, and that's it. Or doing 1 downward dog before bed every night, and that's it. BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits is hugely helpful in establishing your minimum baseline. It teaches you to pick one tiny thing, anchor it to a behavior that's already automatic for you, and the most important part, to celebrate when you do your tiny behavior, even if it feels embarrassingly insignificant. When you pick the right floor, which is to say, when you pick a floor that is something embarrassingly small that you can do even at your worst, eventually, after doing your minimum baseline behavior consistently, it becomes an automatic response that doesn't require any brain juice. Then you can slowly raise your floor a fraction of an inch, almost imperceptibly, until eventually, a few years down the road, your new floor is your old ceiling. Pretty cool. But the way to get there is to accept the fact that your current floor needs to be lower than you might want it to be right now. Something that you can honestly get yourself to do on the days when you're in denial that the future even exists, and the only marathon you can handle training for is the upcoming TBS Big Bang Theory marathon. Something I find incredibly useful in building a protocol for days when you have no motivation is to mentally rehearse doing your minimum baseline behavior in different no motivation scenarios. Imagine practicing one balance challenging pose where you're wobbling around and feeling frustrated and ashamed that you can't more elegantly fold forward while standing on one foot, when you can't even stand up from your lounging position on the couch. You have to roll onto the floor because you're so exhausted, or when your back hurts, or you have a headache, or you forgot to do it that day till really late at night, or you have the busiest day ever and haven't even been home for 17 hours, or you're wearing really stiff, uncomfortable clothes, or whatever other scenario might interfere with you doing your minimum baseline behavior. Imagine how you'll get yourself to do it anyway. You don't have to do a great job at it. You just have to do it. Make an effort, even when you really, really, really don't want to. In my Heroic Coach community, one of our catchphrases is, "It's okay to suck, but it's not okay to skip." Do a crappy job of it, just do it. One of my favorite concepts of all time comes from Phil Stutz, who teaches that the worse you feel, the more committed you are to your protocol or doing your minimum baseline behavior or any behavior that drives your life forward. The worse you feel, the more committed you get. If you can embody that, your life will be forever changed. So maybe when you're imagining doing your floor behavior, even when you feel terrible or wholly unmotivated in some way, you can also imagine your commitment to your desired behavior growing bigger and stronger and more compelling inside of you of its own accord. Kind of like Bruce Banner not being able to help hulking out, or Jacob Black not being able to help wolfing out. The worse and worse you feel, the less enthusiasm you have, the more fatigued you are, the less you slept, the more of a loser you feel like, the more ashamed you are, the less time you have, the more disappointed you are, the more everything seems to be going wrong, the more committed you become to your protocol, to doing your minimum baseline behavior. Pretty powerful. Something else Phil Stutz teaches is that life is one big game of what he calls catching turnarounds. It's okay to mess up and do dumb things, to backpedal, to slip back into self-destructive routines, act like a jerk, or sabotage your progress. All of that's okay. The game of life is about how fast you can catch yourself being who you don't want to be and flip yourself back around. The faster you can get at catching turnarounds, the more progress you'll make toward your goals. That's why just noticing the subtle signs that you're approaching a DEFCON 1 status is so helpful. The earlier you can see the signs of a nuclear threat, the higher your chances of preventing radioactive fallout that will make your bone marrow glow in the dark. Life isn't about being perfect or always feeling like the captain of the pep club. It's about seeing chances to turn back toward who you really want to be more often. You're never going to be perfect, and you're definitely not going to become perfect overnight. But over time, you can develop the skill of noticing the little chances to become a little more like the person you really want to be, a little more frequently. I hope this helped you develop a protocol for the days when you have no motivation. It happens to everyone, and the natural inclination is to do things that subtly make your future worse. The key to not being like most people is slowly and consistently developing the skills to follow your predetermined protocol, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. And I think a predetermined protocol for those no motivation days is so valuable, because you don't have to try to come up with a plan in the moment that life is feeling impossible. You already have a doable protocol to run. First, be able to recognize the signs of no motivation and identify your own DEFCON 1 status and the need to run a security protocol, and be ready and willing to execute the protocol. Next, have a pre-picked out pep talk or inspirational message of some kind and know where to find it. If you appreciate sarcasm, don't forget to watch the 22-second video. I'll put a link in the show notes too. I find it highly motivating. Whatever is seriously motivating to you, listen to, read, or watch it. Motivation is like bathing. It doesn't last, so don't expect it to. Third, have a predetermined floor or minimum baseline already established. Know exactly what it is and that is what you will do whether you feel like it or not. Make absolutely sure it's something you can do even on your worst day. It has to be eminently doable. Resist the temptation to make it impressive. Mentally rehearse ahead of time doing that minimum baseline behavior in all kinds of situations where you would normally want to skip it. When you are physically drained, mentally drained, emotionally destitute, and spiritually adrift, do the small behavior and be sure to celebrate yourself afterward. Don't skip the celebration. Lastly, look for opportunities to win at the game of life, not by being perfect, but by catching turnarounds as quickly as possible. Anytime you catch a turnaround, you're advancing toward who you want to become. Run an experiment on your protocol and tweak it as you go. Your protocol for days when you have no motivation needs to be unique to you and what is most likely to trip you up and wig you out. But when you have one in place and are able to recognize when it's time to implement DEFCON 1 status and know exactly what to do, you'll seem to others like you are a driven high achiever who never lacks inspiration or motivation, and you'll start closing the gap between who you wish you were and who you're actually being. Motivation or not. Thank you so much for being here today and thinking about your personal protocol for the days when you have no motivation. You are awesome, and I'm excited about the gifts you have to give the world, even on days when you don't feel like it. Next week, we're going to talk about how you breathe affects how you age. Until then, prepare for your inevitable next DEFCON 1 situation, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me today. If you found something valuable in today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a forward-thinking friend and subscribe to future episodes. Let's work together to make strong women who get elite-level care and results the rule rather than the exception. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events caused by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.